All right. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us today on this Thursday. My name is Jose Diaz. I am the Director of Academic Technologies and Online Learning, A2L, or ATOL. Some people call us ATOL at here City Tech. My email address is Jose, Jose, dot Diaz, Diaz 944 at citytech.cuny.edu. And today, I think we have a fun topic. I'm going to have fun with this one because I'm a big fan of Notebook LM, and I'm sure some of you here have heard of Notebook LM or have already used it. But today, we're going to use Notebook LM with the mindset of designing assignments with Notebook LM. And feel free to jump in if you have any questions or ideas. And I have a couple of slides I want to go over real quick, or an agenda. Um, real quick, I have a few workshops coming up. Let me see if I can share those real quick. I know we're towards the end of the fall semester, but I think we have one more workshop coming up. Let me see if I could find okay, here it is. We have, let me just minimize my screen real quick so I can share. Okay, there we go. So one event coming up real quick is AI for Student Success. That's December 12th at 11:30. Here is the Zoom registration link or the QR code. For this event, we're going to have Joseph Franklin, who is the leader or the associate professor English department here at City Tech, but he also runs the Writing Center. And we're inviting Rachel Rodriguez from Washington College, who is also the director of the Writing Center at Washington College. And we're going to talk about how students are confronting AI in writing and how are they supporting their students in the writing process at the Writing Center. And along joining them is Anna Falvey, lead writing tutor at City Tech, and Amelia Gramling from Hunter and City Tech College. So that is December 12th at 11:30. I will also send a link to the registration page if you're interested in that. All right, so I just wanted to mention that real quick. And just needed to turn off the heat real quick. It was making the air dry. I could barely breathe. Okay, so with that out of the way, I just want to talk about real quick the items that we're going to tackle today in Notebook LM. Let's go back to slideshow. And so Notebook LM has been out for some time now, but they continue to add new features. And some of those features we will cover today. So for example, the first one, which is the first feature that they came out when Notebook LM was released was the Notebook LM overview or the podcast. So it would turn your notebook into a deep dive or a podcast. The new one that's been added recently is now the audio overview. And actually the most recent one is the video overview, which is basically a video explainer, and we'll cover that as well. We'll also touch on the mind map feature, reports, flashcards, quiz, and then we'll end with some assignment ideas. How can we now take what we learned and the features that Notebook LM has, and how can we turn those features into assignment ideas? Any questions before we jump into Notebook LM? All right, I don't hear any questions. And so we're going to dive straight into Notebook LM. And then what I'll do is we'll come back the last 10 minutes or so of our of the demo. Then we'll come back to my slides, and then I'll discuss real quick some assignment ideas that you can take on your own and customize them and just, make them your own. And, and these are assignments that will incorporate Notebook LM into your classroom. All right, so now with that, I'm going to bring up my Notebook LM window. Let's see if I get this right. All right, here we go. Is everyone able to see that clearly?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, great. All right. So I always like to show the turkey well after it's cooked, and then later on I can show you how I got here. Like how they do the cooking shows, they'll show you the cooked, how nice it looks, and then they go back and they just show you the steps. So what we're looking at here is basically a notebook in Notebook LM, and you can see on the left-hand side these are my sources, and I only have added one source. Which is a link to a website. And the title of that source is 6 Effective Writing Scaffold Examples for Students. And from this one source, I can interact and chat with Notebook LM regarding that source. And that's what the center screen is here. And at the bottom, you will see start typing, right? So from here, I can interact and ask questions or create my prompts and interact with the knowledge that I have here or the knowledge base. On the right hand side, um, we have what's called Studio, and these are what I was referring to in my slides. The 6 features: audio overview, video overview, the mind map, reports, flashcards, and quiz. And then at the top, you can see there's analytics, so you can get analytics. And well, it says not analytics yet, so they're working on that. You can share the notebook, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And then the settings over here, so you can change the settings as you wish. The share is going to be really important for you if you decide to use this in your classroom, because at CUNY, most CUNY schools are all Microsoft schools, and so we don't use Google accounts. And so in this case, what you would have to do is um, share your notebooks with students, and you have to make sure that they have Google accounts. So that's one little obstacle you have to keep in mind as we talk more about Notebook LM. And then at the bottom under the studio, I have already made for you some examples of number one, the audio overview. That's the first one here, which is the podcast deep dive. And there's a really cool feature now that you can interact with the podcast. So I'll show you that in a second. Then we have uh, this is the report. Here's the quiz. All these are already pre-made so that we don't have to wait. So as we're doing this workshop, I didn't want to have to wait as I click them. These are already generated for us, so we don't have to wait. And over here we have the mind map, and then the explainer video here at the bottom. All right, so with that, I just wanted to show you how it looks after it's made. But what we're going to do next is we're going to start from the scratch. So at least now you got to feel how it looks like. So now I'm going to show you how you would create your own notebook. And so you can find Notebook LM in your, let me just make the screen a little smaller. If you have a Google account, you can go to your Google account, click on the little, they call the waffle icon. And from there, you can see that Notebook LM is at the bottom, and you can click on Notebook LM. It'll open up a new tab on your screen, like so. And each one of these is it's a notebook, right? So you can have as many notebooks. I think there is a limit under the free account, but I can't remember that number right now on top of my head. So from here, to create a new notebook, you go over here to the top right-hand corner, click Create New. And the first thing it does, it pops up and it asks you, what are the sources that you want to upload, right? So there has to be a knowledge base. The knowledge base, think of it as a brain. And with Notebook LM, they allow you to upload various types of sources. So you can see here, if you're looking to upload, let's say a PDF, a Word doc, an image, right here you can see it says supported files, right? PDF, TXT files, MP3, a doc file, and so forth, as you can read here. These are all files that are supported in Notebook LM. And so you can simply click this little upload button here, the arrow pointing up. And when you click on that, then you can, let's say, for example, my PDF on a digital storytelling, you click upload, open, and then it just gets uploaded and then begins to analyze that content for you in the in the notebook itself. So this is where your sources live on the left-hand side, and you can add the sources by clicking on this button here. You can also add sources from your Google Drive. So you would click Google Drive here, and this is a new feature they added. You can search now within your Google Drive by type or just by typing in the file name, and you can just locate the files that you want to upload into your notebook by searching in your Google Drive. Okay. Um, Another way to add source is by adding a link to a website. So if you know, let's say, an article that you want your students to learn, to go and read and watch, read an article, you can upload those websites here by clicking website. You can also upload to the knowledge base or the brain YouTube videos to analyze, right? So as you're building this brain, as you can see, there's many ways to train your notebook by adding these sources. If all else fails, you can always copy and paste that content by clicking here, copy and paste your material here. All right, any questions so far on adding sources to the brain?
Jose, thank you for this. If there is a open source textbook that, so we have like a website, for example, can we also put that into our sources?
Yeah,
And maybe you already mentioned that.
I didn't, but yes, you could. Um, if the website is public, meaning that the Google web crawlers can find your website and it's not private or hidden, it should be able to take that information, crawl the web, find that the link that you provided, find that link in the website, analyze the data, and bring it into your notebook. We're going to talk about later how this can, when we talk about assignments, we're going to talk a little bit about how students can create their own research notebooks. So thank you for bringing that up. Also, be mindful if the website has a paywall, or is it, it's protected by a paywall that maybe you have to log in, and those websites or links will not be consumed by Notebook LM. That's a great question.
Great, thanks.
Thank you for asking that. So I always like to mention that when you're sourcing or grounding your notebook, right? We call this grounding. You're grounding your notebook to reliable sources. And sometimes we like to use the term or the phrase garbage in, garbage out. And so as you are grounding your notebook to these reliable sources, make sure that the information is valid. As you know, it's very hard these days and the internet to find reliable sources. And so this is a great exercise for your students. And we'll talk about later different types of assignments on how to do research. How do you ground your notebook on reliable sources that is not going to corrupt your notebook and then provide false data or false information? And so that's a key phrase to keep in mind as you're building your notebook is that garbage. If you bring in garbage, it will produce garbage out, right? So you have to teach your students, if you are going to create an assignment where there's research involved, to best practices on grounding your source knowledge or your knowledge base. All right. Any other questions before we continue? All right. Feel free to jump in if there's any questions. So now that I added my source, you know what? Maybe put an example of a website too, so you can see, because this one here is a PDF. And so let's say I want to also add a YouTube video. So let's open a new tab and then we'll go over to YouTube. And since we're focusing on digital storytelling, I'm going to search for digital storytelling examples or tutorial. All right. And so this one here looks like a good, reliable one. I haven't watched it, but it looks like an explainer video. And so what is digital storytelling? So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And just for saving, just to save time, I'm just going to right now copy that link, that URL. So what I did was I went to the video on YouTube. I clicked on share at the bottom here, and I grab, well, you can just click the copy button, right? And then we're going to go back over to our notebook. Where did my notebook go? Oh, it was behind. Okay. So I grabbed the YouTube link, and then we went back into our notebook. We went to the Add Sources button at the top left, and we're going to select Link YouTube, paste YouTube URL. So we're going to go right straight there. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to hit Command V. If you're on a PC, you can hit Control V. That's the YouTube link. I click Insert, and I can see the little check mark. So now my knowledge base, or the brain for my notebook, now has two new sources. We have a PDF on digital storytelling, and we have a video on digital storytelling, right? And so as I'm training my notebook on digital storytelling, you will continue to ground your notebook on reliable sources. All right, so that makes sense to everybody?
Yes.
All right, great. I'm sharing my screen, so it's hard to read people's faces because I can't see anyone here because I'm looking at my I'm sharing my screen, so I don't have the view. So I'm going to continue to ask just to get some feedback. So okay, so now with that on the left, I can now interact with my notebook, right? So I can. Well, here let me make a. Let me just make. Let me just also draw your attention to these little bubbles. All right, so these little bubbles are very similar to what these are over here. Right, so these are the same features. Video overview, that's video overview over here. Audio overview, which is the podcast, that's over here. So these are just replicating what's over here. But what I can do here is now I can say these bubbles right here below, these are starter prompts. And so if I don't know what to ask my notebook, I can say, oh, well, this is a good one. How will the premier event showcase diversity, right? Or, these starter prompts are based on the knowledge base that I ingested into my notebook. But I can have my own prompt. I can say um, a brief, provide a brief explanation of what digital storytelling is. So it's digging in. What it's doing here, it's looking at the knowledge source that I have ingested into my notebook, and then it's coming back with an answer. The beauty behind this is that the citations, as you can see, are here. And these citations are referencing to my knowledge base. So what's happening here is that it's not going to the internet and looking for answers. It's looking at my knowledge base, which is on the left-hand side, and looking for answers based on my knowledge base, then producing those answers here on the chat screen with the citations as to where it found the answer. Right? Does that make sense?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So my problem with the notebook LM is those numbers that you just show, right? Number one, number two. Are those the source number? Like the one is from digital storytelling flyer PDF, and two is the YouTube video?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Over here, you can see number two. Um, Usually, when you use like tools like ChatGPT and Copilot, usually the citation comes along with the where the source came from. I'm not seeing here. Okay, this one, number three is a flyer. Number two is the the video. I'm only able to tell because I'm familiar with the flyer, so I can tell number three is a flyer.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's in general my problem with those references. I don't find them very trustworthy.
right, right. But it does say over here at the bottom. So for example, here, right, number three, if I scroll down, it's stating that it's coming from the digital storytelling flyer.pdf.
Yeah, no, I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you. Thank you so much.
and then when I clicked on number two, the video, it's referencing the video here. Uh, so I hear your point. I wish it would have it here at the top, so you don't have to go digging deep. But what I've seen with Notebook LM is they have been really good at providing new features and updates. So they are listening if we make those suggestions. But yes, I hear you. That's a good point.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Thank you for the question. That's a good one. Right. Right. So here, number one, if I scroll down here, I don't see, right? So it would be helpful, to your point, for them to, within the citation, to include the source somewhere here at the top. So I don't go digging, have to go digging deep in there to find out if the source is reliable or that it's sourcing directly from my knowledge base. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to, let me see, we're doing good in time, yes. The reason why I wanted to acknowledge the chat component is because some of the assignments would be great where there's interactivity between the student and the notebook, right? So in this case, some of the activities or assignments I'm going to mention later on would require the student to interact and have a conversation with the notebook itself. And so this is where that interaction happens. The student will type here their questions and interact with the notebook that way. All right. With that, I want to jump over now to the right-hand side, which is referred to as the studio. So the one on the left is called the sources. This is where the brain, this is where you're sourcing to the brain. Here is the chat, is the middle. This is where you interact with the notebook. And number three is the studio. And this is where you can create a podcast, a video explainer, a mind map tool, reports, and etc. So when you click on one of these, it's going to take some time for it to generate these. So look, for example, if I click, I want an audio podcast of this notebook. If I click on it, it starts to generate, but it says come back in a few minutes. For that reason is why I have this one here, which is already done for us, so we don't have to wait. But we'll come back to it later. So this is the one that I said earlier. This is the one that I already, the turkey is cooked, and I can show it to you. Now, I'm going to see if this works because I know on Zoom I was supposed to allow my mic or to the audio to play. So please let me know if you don't hear the audio. I'm going to hit play. So here, what we're going to look at is the podcast feature, right? Which is the first one, audio overview. So I'm going to try to hit play. I hope that you're able to hear it. Let's see.
Jumping straight into a topic that's really foundational to effective teaching, especially when we're talking about developing strong.
Were you able to hear that?
Yes, we can hear.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Oh, I was so worried. All right, I'll let it play for a few seconds. Now, keep in mind that this is not me. I wasn't recorded. I'm not speaking. This is the notebook using artificial generative AI based on the source that we provided on this one source. Then I said create a podcast for me, and so it created this podcast based on this one knowledge source. So that's what we're listening to right now.
Strong writers. We're looking at the strategic use of supports known as scaffolds.
And, this isn't just another buzzword.
Yeah.
It's really about engineering a student's access to really rigorous content. The sources start with this great analogy that I think helps you immediately get it.
Okay.
When we talk about scaffolding and writing, you should picture those huge metal structures they use to build or repair a skyscraper.
Right, the actual scaffolding.
Exactly. That structure is there to help workers get to those hard to reach places to access skills and knowledge they just couldn't manage from the ground floor.
I love that visual. It immediately signals that these support.
All right, so it sounds human. It's not a real human. These are not people speaking. This is just generative AI who just created this podcast based on the knowledge base that we have here. Now, how can this help us and students? One thing is universal design learning. UDL is one reason why this is helpful. Students might want to hear let's say a lecture or your slide presentation, right? So on they're commuters, they're going from school home and home to school. A lot of our students record sessions, lectures, and they listen to them. So this is another way that you can, provide multimodal forms of content in your course. Now, this is a really cool feature that Notebook LM added recently. Is the interactive feature. So now you can actually interact with the podcast hosts. So let me demonstrate that real quick for you. So all I'm doing is clicking on the button here that says interactive. So I'm going to go ahead and click interactive mode. And it opens up in this screen. And it's basically going to be the same recording that we heard earlier, but now the difference is that I will be able to interrupt the host and ask a question. So let me demonstrate that for you now.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are jumping straight into a topic that's really foundational to effective teaching, especially when we're talking about developing strong writers. We're looking at the strategic use of supports known as scaffolds.
And, this isn't just another buzzword. It's really about engineering a student's access to really rigorous content. The sources start with this great analogy that I think helps you immediately get it.
Okay.
When we talk about scaffolding and writing, you should picture that.
Hey there. Want to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused with what you mean by scaffolding. Are you referring to the scaffolding around the building?
And that is a fantastic question.
And it is exactly where we were going.
Yes, we absolutely mean the scaffolding around a building.
We're using it as a direct analogy.
Exactly. Picture those, those huge metal structures they use to build or repair a skyscraper.
Right, the actual scaffolding. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a great point. I'm interested in that. But can you also tell me where the best pizza spots are in downtown Brooklyn?
I hear that. We're very interested in good pizza as well.
Oh, absolutely. But unfortunately, we have to stay laser focused on writing scaffolds today.
Yeah, that's what our deep dive is for.
We want to make sure we cover all of this great content for you.
But we can certainly talk about pizza maybe after the show.
Absolutely. You just keep that question warm for us.
So we were just confirming that the structure we mean is the actual physical scaffolding.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, I was trying to throw them off there with some pizza spots in downtown Brooklyn, but so this is a nice feature because if you're doing an assignment where the students are collaborating, I can see where sometimes there are terms that we don't know. There's maybe students, there's a lot of students, especially in CUNY, where English is not their first language, and sometimes there are terminologies that is being used, and if I don't understand what scaffolding means, I might want to interrupt the host and then ask, can you better explain what you mean by scaffolding? So that's another nice feature to have in Notebook LM is the interactive feature. So let's go back to the studio, and you can go back. So you can see here, there's a breadcrumbs, right? So we're in the audio overview, which is the podcast deep dive. But if you want to go back to studio, just follow the breadcrumbs back to studio. And we're back here. All right, so real quick, okay, we're good with time. Now I want to show you the
Sorry to interrupt, Jose. Before you leave the podcast feature,
sure.
if we were to deploy that,
Mhm.
which would be by sharing the link to the notebook, right?
Correct.
Then I assume we can also, oh, I guess you said the analytics is not quite there yet. So we wouldn't know like which students engaged with the podcast and how they engaged.
Oh, that's an excellent question. Yes, as if we're talking about assignments, how do we bring it back and how do we gauge and uh, you know, a lot of professors I know have used Google Docs and Google Drive to do some collaborative work, and it's always hard because if you're using Brightspace, it's an external link going out of the LMS, right? We're leaving Brightspace and we're going into Google. And then sometimes, if you have to bring that work back into the assignment in Brightspace, so these are considerations we got to start thinking about. How do we? But to your point, we can send a link when you do the share, and then this goes back to my original point when we began the workshop. Is um, do all your students have Google accounts, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So that's a question. It's an important question because we can add them individually, one by one. But you can also do it this way, which is you can come back here at the bottom. You can say anyone with the link. I had it, by default it said to restrict it, but I went ahead and I changed it to anyone with the link can access. So then what I can do is I can copy the link, go into Brightspace, and if I have Brightspace open, I do have Brightspace open. I believe I do. Yes, I do have it. And in my Notebook LM folder here, I can then create a link. And here is let's call this a notebook homework or homework notebook or something. I don't know, whatever you want. I'm horrible with everyone knows here I'm bad with coming up with names on the spot. As you see in my previous workshops, I can never come up with some good names on the spot. But then this link will now open in a new window and it will open the notebook that way. Obviously, I'm logged in, but it will require the students to log in with their Google account. So it goes back to having a Google account. So just verify with your students. And I mean, I don't know, I, I hate to assume that everyone has a Google account, but it's a good best practice to ask your students that they have that they have Google accounts.
Yeah. I mean, I've been teaching with Colab, so they all have Google accounts. It was more like, let's say I have this podcast. Is there interaction with the podcast public? Or maybe there's a setting that I can adjust. And then can I, as an assignment, listen to this podcast and then ask one clarifying question or something? I'm just trying to figure out like how to integrate it into teaching and grading, really.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, the integration with the grading is going to be tough because you're going to have to find a way to. Definitely going to be a manual grade, because it's not linked to, it's not integrated with our Brightspace. So that's a limitation. But we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the assignment part because that's really where it comes together, right? Is how we're going to create these assignments. Where is my notebook? Did I lose it? No, here it is. Okay, yeah. So we were talking about sharing and how to make it visible to our students. Um, oh, by the way, I don't think I covered this part, but you did mention the settings. You can change settings here, and then you can also go over to here and you could define the conversational tone or the goal or the style based on your assignment. Set by default, uh, default will be what we had now, right? It's just default, but you can also change it by custom settings, and then right here below, you can customize the notebook to be more, let's say, is it going to be role playing, right? Let's say your assignment is based on a debate or your students are debating, right? You might want to do role playing or debate. So here's where you would type in the examples and customize the notebook to your liking. And the bottom here, you can also customize the response length if you want it to be longer or shorter. But that's all they gave us for now. But I'm sure in the future, as I'm seeing Notebook LM almost weekly, almost like monthly updates are happening. So I see Google has invested a lot in Notebook LM because they keep updating it. So keep in mind, you can also change that here under the little um, this little filter kind of configure notebook here is where you can do that. So I'm going to move a little quick now because I want to show you. I really love this. So that was really interesting, right? You can create a podcast, audio podcast. Students can listen in. They can interact. That's really cool and fantastic. Keep the ideas for the assignments. Keep thinking how this could become an assignment. But I also want to show you this one real quick. This one is I believe this is a reports. When you click on reports, they give you a lot of options. So based on your knowledge base, you can create a report that could be a study guide. That's a good one for students, right? If they're using notebooks to take notes of their courses, they can then create a study guide directly from this report feature, a blog post, a briefing doc. You can craft your own by specifying structure. So this will be the one that you can customize. This is a really cool one, best practices guide, a training manual. This one I really use a lot for our department because we provide a lot of training manuals. So if I create a knowledge base based on how to use Brightspace, I can then create a report on a training manual that it will be nice. So there's a lot here that you can do. A concept explainer, informational pamphlet. So let me show you how that looks. I think I chose a instructional, yeah, I did an instructional one, instructional best practice guide. And so here you can see on scaffolding assignments, it created a best practices guide. So this can then be copied and pasted into your course or whatever it is you're using it for. Let me go back to the studio. It can also be used as a quiz. So students can take their notes and then what they can do with this is also then create quizzes for themselves so they can test themselves, right, on the knowledge that, on the class that they're taking or whatever. So this is how a quiz will look like. And these are multiple choice questions, right, and provides hints. So these are all based on the knowledge that we provided. And then they can hit, so there's 10 multiple choice questions. They can pick and choose. And then if I get it wrong, it gives you the right answer. And then hit explain. And then it'll give you the explain why why is it incorrect. And from here, students can interact and continue the chat, for more information, to learn more, deeper thinking can happen in the interaction part here in the chat. If I want to move on to the next question, you hit next, and it moves on to the next question. So this is really a nice tool for students who want to make the learning stick and not to cram the day before the exam. So let's go back to Studio because I want to leave some time for the assignments. Here are scaffolding flashcards, right? So these are flashcards. Again, another great study guide for students, right? From moving memory from short-term to long-term memory, flashcards are amazing, right? So these are flashcards that when they click on the question, the answer, the card flips over and there's a card, the backside explains the answer. These are great for midterm reviews, final reviews. So let's move on to the next one real quick. This one is amazing. I love this one. These are mind maps. So you can actually create a mind map, right? This is on effective writing scaffolds for students. So you can click on the little arrow and you see how it collapses, right? You can see now deeper knowledge. These you can download and bring them over into your Brightspace. So let me show you real quick what I did, just an example. So if I go back to my Notebook LM folder on Brightspace, here's my example of a mind map. So I basically downloaded the image from Notebook LM, and then I went into Brightspace. Now keep in mind, these are not interactive. You lose the interactivity, right? You can like uncollapse or collapse these, but these are great, right? Because when students are doing their research paper, they want a visual representation of the research, and it'll help scaffold the process of writing a research paper, right? So a mind map works great for that. So this is great for students. And again, think about this, how you can utilize this for an assignment, ideation, right? Depending on what you're teaching. Let me go back here to the notebook. And let's go back here, right? So here you can see it's interactive, right? I can collapse, I can uncollapse, but this is happening, or I can zoom in and zoom out. But this is happening within the notebook. Once I download and bring it down to my computer and I hit save, and it saves as an image, and then I bring it to Brightspace, you lose the interactivity. All right, let me go back to Studio real quick. And the last one is one of my favorites. It's an explainer video. And for those who are teaching online asynchronous courses, you understand how much time it takes to produce videos for your courses. Notebook LM will create an explainer video for you. And I'll play one real quick, but I want you to pay close attention to how it syncs the slides to the voice. That's really important, right? Because when you're explaining and you're talking something about something, you want the images to align with what you're saying. So I think it does a pretty good job at creating slides that match the audio. And to download these, always remember, you can always download any of these by clicking on the three little dots on the right-hand side, click download, or even share them from the three little dots at the end. So let me show you what I did with this video. I downloaded this video and then I brought it over to our Brightspace course. And then I'll play the video so you can see how the video looks. So these videos are done in a matter of minutes. And here's the video. And then once you download the MP4 file, you go into your Brightspace course, upload the file, and here it is. So I'll play a few seconds of it for you.
If you're an educator, you know this moment. A student is staring at a blank page, just stuck. Well, today we're talking about the one tool that can help break down that wall, writing scaffolds. We're going to explore how these temporary supports can build something truly permanent: skill, confidence, and of course, independence. So here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle that all too common problem, the writer's wall. Then we'll get into what scaffolding really is, talk about 4 huge benefits, and walk through a 5-step guide to put it all into practice. We'll even give you a toolkit of strategies you can use. And finally, we'll talk about the ultimate goal here, building that independence. Okay, let's start with a scene that I'm sure is going to feel very, very familiar to a lot of you. So you've just given a...
All right, so that's pretty much what it does for you. And these are explainer videos that, will eat up a lot of time. Not only that, there's a lot of tools that are paid tools that you have to pay to actually create these. And with Notebook LM, these are just you can just make these in a matter of minutes. Again, these are based on the knowledge source. So like I said before, if you have good, grounded sources that have, good information, then these videos will come out, good based on the knowledge that you provided your knowledge base. Any questions on any of these before we move into the assignments?
I have one question. Is there a particular reason why you download and upload the videos instead of sharing the link to the video?
Oh yeah, that's a great point. Best practice when you're developing a course or designing a course is you want to keep your students in the environment within the course. If I were to, for example, copy a video from YouTube and an external video, an external link that will take them out of my course into the world of YouTube, I may never get them back.
Thank you. That's a great answer. Thanks so much.
Yeah, because YouTube is designed to keep people zombied into their content. They'll give you another video that follows up right after. Then there's a ad here, and there's this and that, and then it's what we call popcorn brain. When I went in to do a specific research in YouTube, and next thing you know, I'm watching videos about cats, and it's like, wait a second, why did I come here in the first place? I completely forgot what I was here for, and that's what the algorithm does to us. It creates a popcorn brain. So I don't want our students to leave. I want to keep them in our Brightspace environment, and for that reason, I want to download this MP4 file. Let me show you real quick how I did that. And then we'll jump into, oops, this is not the right one. Then we'll jump into the assignments. Okay, so in Studio, you have these three little dots. So for example, this explainer video that we just did, you click here on the three little dots, you hit download, and it will save to your, it'll download the MP4 file, which is a video file, into your computer. Once you've downloaded the video file to your computer, then you go into your Brightspace course, and here, all you do is hit create. We do video, and what you do is you click upload, browse your computer, locate the video that it's an MP4 file, right? So you know it's an MP4 because that's a video file. Then you select the video, click open, and hit save. There's our video, it's processing. We hit save. Oh, title. Hit save. And not only that, I believe that if we upload, another reason why to do it this way is because if we upload to Brightspace, it will generate captions for accessibility needs. So eventually, if I give it a few more minutes, I will be able to get captions as well. Whereas in Notebook LM, I don't get captions. So that's another good reason why you want to bring it into your Brightspace. All right, so we have about 13 minutes. So what I'm going to do is real quick, I'm going to rush through these ideas. Let me know what you think, and jump in, and feel free to. There's no interruption here. Don't feel shy.
Can I, before you move on, I had my hand up. I just question about the video.
Sure, sure.
The video was 6 minutes. Is there any way you can prompt it or iterate on the video to say, hey, I want a 2-minute video or a 3-minute video, or give it? I know, like, I've been playing with different video generators, and that you can put in the prompt, sort of some of those constraints.
Yeah. That's a great question, and I know Google will be adding that feature. The only way I can think of is, remember when we went over here to this little configure notebook, and if we decide we want this to be a little shorter, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that this will also shorten the videos and the podcast. I'm not 100% on that, but I think that might do the trick. Otherwise, as of right now, there is no other way to be, say this has to be at least no more than 2 minutes or 3 minutes, right? And so I know I'm not answering completely your question, but I hope that's a feature that Google will add.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure, thank you for the question. That's a great one. And Google's great at listening to feedback. I forget where it is, but there's a link where we can go and submit features. Because with Notebook LM, I've been seeing new features almost. Oh my gosh, they have really invested a lot in Notebook LM because it really hit off running when they first came out. Everyone was really excited about it.
Yeah, I went a few months without looking at it, and then I looked at it again and was like, oh my God, there's all these new things.
Yeah, the one that blew me away was this interactive mode with, that just blew me away. All right, so real quick, I just want to run through these assignments just to get that wheel turning in your head, as to how can I bring Notebook LM into my classroom, and when I first interacted with Notebook LM, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh my goodness, this is perfect for a midterm review. I can ask my students, instead of me painting the fence for them, which they will allow me to paint the fence for them. That's one thing about students. If you decide and you volunteer to say, well, we're going to do a midterm review, and I'm going to tell you I'm going to guide the midterm review for you and tell you all the questions, they'll let you go and let you do it. But what's the value in that? Why not have them create a midterm review in the Notebook LM, have it as a collaboration between their students, and it's in their benefit to put in good information because they're benefiting from a solid notebook because they're going to learn from it and better prepare for the midterm and final, right? So what better incentive is than to have them do a midterm or a final review in Notebook LM, and they all collaborate like a Wikipedia, and they all contribute information, and they all interact and ask questions, right? They can quiz themselves. That's a nice one. Here's another one that I came up. Oops. Let me go. Okay, here we go. So so a collaborative research notebooks, right? So you can have the professor can own the notebook. You have full control. You should have ownership of the notebook. And then whether you decide to do this in groups, you can have notebook one for group one, notebook two for group two. But you, at the end of the day, are the owner of these notebooks. And then you decide, who belongs in group one. Then you share notebook one with those members in group one. At the end of the day, you still oversee what's happening in group one, right? You can see what's going on because you're the owner of these notebooks. Or, like the example I gave, the midterm or final review, if the entire class is in one notebook, you're the owner of the notebook. They're contributing knowledge into the book, so that you can always catch misinformation, right? Or you can see something might. We still need the professor involved in there somewhere, right? You gotta oversee the situation, what's going on in the notebook. So at the end, you are the owner of this notebook. You invite the students in, and then collaboration. What better way to work than collaborate? And this is where I think the analytics will come really handy. I think the professor at the beginning mentioned when analytics becomes available, you can see which of your students were more involved and who didn't contribute to the notebook, right? That will come in handy as well. So promotes teamwork, deep engagement with course materials, and responsible AI use. Here are student-generated study guides. This is what kind of like I mentioned earlier, midterm final review. It will help also students create summaries in the podcast review or the video explainer. You can also create the glossaries of key terms. That's a big one, right? For those who are teaching computer courses or any course that requires a lot of terminologies. You can remember when we clicked on the report feature, you can create a glossary, right? That will help students for that exam or whatever. And so that's another good idea that you can do with this. It supports comprehension for multilingual learners and students with different learning styles. Thinking and source evaluation, right? So if you have an assignment for your students and they got to read or watch a video, they can come back individually, create a paper, and that paper goes into the knowledge source. And so now you're building this brain of all the students' work, right? And now students can look at each other's work, debate, challenge, higher level thinking, critical thinking, right? Reflections can happen this way, right? So I can see this becoming like students are plugging in their information, combining the information, and then maybe what comes out of it is they have to go back and review the paper, the initial paper, and rewrite it because they didn't realize they learn from each other, right? It's social learning that I said something wrong in my paper. I go back, remove it from the brain, remove it from the knowledge source, rewrite my paper, and then resubmit it into the knowledge source, right? So it builds academic discussion skills. Students can interact, discuss amongst themselves, debate. That I could see debates happening. That'll be another great way of an assignment. Um, Also to overcome accessibility needs, right? We talked about UDL, we talked about universal design learning, right? If you're developing a course and you need these video explainers or you need these podcasts, audio podcasts to summarize your lectures, you're creating multimodal forms of content within your course. So that's another use case. Also, for those who are teaching language courses, that would be interesting to hear students create, let's say it's teaching a Spanish course and then have students conversational Spanish and then also interact with the notebook in that way. That would be interesting as well. Study guides, right? Interactive Q&A. We talked about flashcards. We already talked about that. Peer-to-peer reviews. Peer-to-peer review is another great example, right? So if you do peer-to-peer reviews, you have two students in one notebook. That's another good idea for assignment. The other one is, I talked about real quick, debate or presentation, right? So the students can build their presentations in a notebook. And then from there, they can develop their presentations. Or they can, you as a professor can create a notebook on counter arguments and then have your student debate in the chat feature against the notebook itself, right? Prove me wrong. So you can build a knowledge base on a specific topic and the student have to come with a counter argument. That's another good example of an assignment. I'll do one more and then we'll end and then I'll open up for any questions. Personalized learning paths. So you can create different pathways to learning and each notebook can be a certain pathway, right? So that's another interesting way to think of it. Maybe you link one notebook to another notebook and then those can be different pathways or based on modules. There could be a whole notebook on one module in your course. And so those are some of the ideas I came up with. I want to open up to everyone because I don't want to be the only one talking here. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your ideas. And I want to hear any questions that you may have. Oh, I see there was a lot of interaction in the chat. Oh, there was one question by Cliff. Will it generate the same podcast when you request again? Yes, it will. It will create a new podcast. How much? By that I mean that it's not going to be identical in what it's saying, but most likely the same is being said, but in different ways. Oh, Lizette answered the question. Thank you, Lizette. I didn't see Lizette had answered that question. Okay. Well, if there aren't any more questions, then I would love to hear back from you and how you are using it in your classroom. I would love to hear how if you have used an assignment, please let us know. I'm curious to hear how it, what comes out of it. Please share with us. Again, the idea of these workshops is for us to learn as a community, learn from each other. So if you have an amazing idea on an assignment using Notebook LM, please come back and share because I think we all will benefit from it. And I thank you again for. I can't believe I'm ending I'm ending on time this. I'm ending on time this time. Thank you for coming, and again, please come back and let us know what you come up with. I'll be happy to hear what you come up with. And thanks again for joining us. Have a great rest of your week.